Hello everyone! Welcome to a Fleet Manager's Guide to EELs. Everything you wanted to ask but were too afraid to. I'm Audra Gutowski, a marketing specialist at BigRoad. The ELD mandate deadline is getting closer and closer every day. As a fleet manager, it's important you set yourself, your fleet, and your drivers up for a successful transition to electronic logging devices. Spending time now to research providers and their solutions, and to trial solutions and watch demos, as well as discussing them with key people at your fleet, will save you a lot of time and frustration in the long run. The goal of today's webinar is to provide you with the information you need to plan a successful transition and to select the solution that best fits your fleet. During the webinar, I'll give a brief explanation of the ELD mandate and the exemptions. I'll then cover common questions and concerns fleet managers have about electronic logging devices. After that, I'll provide some tips on how to evaluate an ELD solution before sharing a brief history of BigRoad and our solution. Before I get started though, I would like to touch upon a few housekeeping items. If you submitted a question prior to the webinar, I'll do my best to answer it during the presentation. If you have questions during the webinar, please feel free to enter them into the question box. That's located on the GoToWebinar control panel. The question box is located on the bottom right. Also, at the end of the webinar, I'll be opening up the floor for any additional questions, so don't worry if I'm not able to get to them right away. Let's get started. What is the ELD mandate? The ELD mandate is a regulation that requires the majority of commercial motor vehicle drivers to run an electronic logging device in their vehicle to record their records of duty status and hours of service. The FMCSA made the move to mandate ELDs with the goal of making the road safer and making it easier and faster to accurately track, manage, and share RODS data. Mandating the use of electronic logging devices is not a new topic, however. It's actually been in the works for some time. Let's take a look at how we got to where we are today. Back in 2010, the FMCSA issued their first attempt at mandating the use of electronic logging devices. However, this rule was challenged by a number of associations and individuals, ultimately resulting in it being shut down by the U.S. Court of Appeals. The court felt that the FMCSA did not sufficiently address driver harassment in the rulemaking. So the FMCSA then revamped the rule and published a new version, which is the one we know today. This final ELD rule was published on December 16, 2015. Keeping in suit with their original lawsuit, OOIDA filed another one against the FMCSA and their new mandate. However, after a few court hearings, they were not successful in getting it overturned, meaning that the mandate, as outlined in the original final rule, remains in effect. As a result, all the original requirements, dates, timelines remain unchanged. So what does this mean? There are a number of compliance dates that you need to be aware of. If your drivers are currently using paper logs or an electronic logbook, they will need to be using an ELD by December 18, 2017. If your drivers are using an automatic onboard recording device, also known as an AOBRD, you'll have some additional time. This is because the mandate includes a grandfather clause for these devices, allowing them to be used up until December 17, 2019. However, after this date, all drivers using AOBRDs will have to switch to electronic logging devices. It is worth noting, however, that AOBRDs are becoming very popular with people who want flexibility with their logging. This is because the editing features with these devices are not as locked down as they would be with an ELD. So it makes a lot of sense to run one before you transition fully to electronic logging devices. However, you will need to abide by the two dates listed above, unless you qualify for an exemption, which I'll get into shortly. So who will need to run an ELD? Well, the mandate requires the majority of commercial motor vehicle drivers involved in interstate commerce and who are required to keep records of duty status transition to electronic logging devices. Or in other words, most drivers who are required to keep RODS need an ELD. That includes Canadian and Mexican drivers driving in the US who do not qualify for an exemption. They will also need to run an ELD while driving in the US to be compliant with FMCSA rules. Another common question we get at BigRoad is, what's happening in Canada? Do they have an ELD? Simply, the answer at this point in time is no, not yet. However, the Canadian government is in the process of creating their own version of the ELD mandate, but they haven't released any official documentation or timelines. However, it should be noted that Canada will follow a similar implementation timeline as the US. Here at BigRoad, we're going to do our best to keep you posted through our BigRoad blog, our social media channels, and our monthly newsletter as to what's happening with the Canadian mandate. Which leads us into our next question. Who qualifies for an exemption? Well, a majority of drivers who require to be running an ELD, there are a few who do qualify for an exemption. Those drivers are those who, as a rule of thumb, if you do not have to keep record of duty statuses, you won't have to run an ELD. Similarly, if your fleet is made up of short-haul drivers who do not drive outside a 100 air-mile radius from your home office, they'll also qualify for an exemption. However, if they do run outside their air-mile radius, they will need an ELD for that time. So if you have a mix of short-haul drivers and long-haul drivers, your long-haul drivers will need an ELD to be compliant. Only the short-haul side of your business will be exempt. If your drivers are driving less than 8 days during a 30-day period, they're also exempt. However, if they're logging more than 8 days in a given 30-day period, so for instance, they're running 10 days in a 30-day period, they will need to run an ELD to be compliant. In addition, if you're part of a drive-away tow-away operation and the commercial motor vehicle that's being driven is part of the shipment, so an empty vehicle for sale, or a vehicle for lease, or one for repair, then your driver will not have to use an electronic logging device. Lastly, if your drivers are driving vehicles with a model year date 2000 or earlier, so they're driving, say, something that's 1999 or earlier, based on the VIN, they'll also qualify for an exemption. The reason being that the vehicle's diagnostic ability is limited based on the age, and it won't be compatible with new technology. However, just because you're exempt from running an ELD doesn't mean you don't need to keep a log. If you're required to keep a log and you qualify for an exemption, you'll still need to create your logs either on paper or an electronic logbook. With the majority of fleets transitioning to ELDs, we highly recommend that you switch to an electronic logbook as soon as possible. Department of Transportation inspectors are going to be trained on inspecting electronic logs from now on, so it's going to become the new standard. Paper logs are a thing of the past. That being said, I can guarantee that Department of Transportation inspectors will be looking at paper logs a lot more closely because they're more likely to have errors than something that automatically records information. Paper logs will become an easy violation. So what is an ELD and what does it record? An ELD is a piece of hardware that plugs into your vehicle's diagnostic port via a cord to automatically record data from your engine's vehicle to create the rod status. The ELD automatically records the following at certain intervals: the time, the date, location information, engine hours, vehicle miles, and any identifying information for the driver, authenticated use, vehicle, and motor carrier. This means that electronic logging devices will automatically create your driver's logs, recording their drive times, such as when they stopped and started the vehicle, their mileage and locations, all to provide a more accurate record of their drive times and logs. Although ELDs will automate a good portion of their hours of service logs, they will still need to review them and to add any additional information and sign off on them. So who can edit an ELD log? The main purpose of the mandate is to make the roads safer by preventing the falsification and tampering of driver logs, and to prevent fatigue driving. To ensure that logs can't be manipulated, electronic logging devices limit the amount of editing that can be done. In fact, they're actually far more restrictive than electronic logbooks or even AOBRDs when it comes to editing. For instance, with electronic logging devices, drivers will no longer have the ability to edit their logs. However, office staff, such as administrative users, can make limited edits to driver logs to correct mistakes or add missing information. It's important to note that driving duty status events are automatically recorded and they can't be modified by the driver. Similarly, once a driver has submitted their log, they can't make any changes to it. Only your fleet administrators can make an edit to a submitted log. After the edit, your driver will still need to verify the edit and resubmit their log. However, I can't stress enough, edits are now visible to roadside inspectors as a part of the mandate. That means the ELD will keep both records, your original unedited log and the updated log. Both can be viewed. And it's also important to note that the record will also keep track of who made the change and the date and time of the change. Which leads us into our next few questions about ELDs. Do ELDs need to be hardwired into the cab? No, they don't need to be hardwired. There are both hardwired and plug-and-play options available on the market. What you choose depends on the needs of your fleet. A hardwired solution is usually more expensive and requires a professional installation. It also usually integrates into a telematics solution. The initial costs tend to be a lot higher, and they often have a higher monthly subscription as well. A plug-and-play solution is just that. It plugs into your vehicle and works with your driver's existing device, either their cell phone or their tablet. Our solution, the DashLink ELD, is a plug-and-play device that can be installed by your drivers within a few minutes. It's a flexible device that can be moved from vehicle to vehicle. There's no expensive install, and there's no new devices required. It simply pairs with your driver's device, such as their Apple or Android cell phone or tablet, making it super easy for them to use and saving you from having to go and buy out new phones and tablets. So what if your fleet is made up of owner-operators? Do you still need ELDs? Unfortunately, owner-operators are not exempt from the mandate. Only the drivers who qualified for the previously mentioned exemptions don't have to run an ELD. So those who are part of a drive-away, tow-away operation or short-haul drivers. If your drivers are keeping rods, your fleet will likely need to be ELD compliant, regardless of whether you have company drivers or owner-operators. Will ELDs reduce your driving time? ELDs do not change the number of hours that are available for your fleet to drive. In fact, they may actually provide more driving time, as your drivers won't have to stop and fill out their paper logs. Plus, they're more accurate and more precise. With ELDs, though, you can't move things around to create more driving time. The purpose of these devices is to stop that. That being said, no one will be able to do this anymore, so it creates a level playing field. It's important to remember that this mandate affects everyone's fleet, not just yours. Will ELDs distract your drivers? ELDs will not distract your drivers on the road. In comparison to an electronic logbook, they'll probably be less distracted. Drivers who will no longer have to worry about manually entering information. The device does it for them so they can just literally focus on driving. Electronic log devices are the tools that help your drivers stay compliant without making their jobs harder. So what do you do when some of your drivers fall under an exemption? Would the rest of your fleet need to transition? Well, if some of your drivers qualify for an ELD exemption, then they don't need to run an electronic logging device. However, those who do not qualify for an exemption do need to be compliant by the mandate deadline. We recommend looking into a portable solution that gives your fleet the flexibility it needs. This is why so many fleets have selected BigRoad's DashLink ELD. You can have drivers running on just the BigRoad mobile app and other drivers on our DashLink ELD, so that everyone's running together under the same solution within one fleet management platform. It makes situations like this a lot easier to manage. Will ELDs create more work for your staff? Electronic logging devices will actually save your office staff from a lot of manual paperwork, data entry, and manual log auditing. They create a lot of efficiencies that make other tedious tasks that they have to do a lot easier. ELDs will also store your driver's logs in a central location, making auditing and archiving a breeze. Can ELDs turn off your truck remotely? ELDs are not able to shut off your vehicle remotely. No one has the ability to do this through an electronic logging device. It's not what they've been designed to do. They only record information. Are ELDs expensive? It really depends on the solution you choose. Some ELD providers charge a hefty upfront hardware cost, sometimes upwards of $1,000 per unit, and then a high monthly subscription on top. BigRoad is one of the most affordable ELD solutions. We charge $15 per user per month for an administrative license. and $10 per month for every DashLink ELD. For a driver or single asset, this works out to $25 per month. Will ELDs affect your CSA scores? Electronic logging devices will have a huge impact, but for the better. When you transition to ELDs, form and manner errors virtually disappear. You're no longer at risk of making the common mistakes that people do. The device will automatically do most of the required tasks for you, ensuring that you're always running in HOS compliance. The earlier you transition to electronic logging devices, the more time you'll have with little to no violation risks. You'll be able to build up your safety score, while others who are still using paper logs and electronic logbooks will still be at risk of making human errors. Which leads us into our next question. Will the Department of Transportation have access to your logs? The government will not have any access to your logs unless they request it in an inspection or in an audit and you give them that access. BigRoad does not give your information out to anyone. Similarly, the government will not be notified when your driver makes a mistake or commits a violation. We've heard rumors of people saying that they're going to get a ticket for errors or that they're going to be pulled over in real time for speeding just because they're on an ELD. This is not true. No one has access to this information except for those that you grant access to. So how do you find the right solution for your fleet? It can be hard to know which ELD solution you should choose for your fleet. However, before you make any decisions, it's important to assess your fleet's needs and to conduct research to make an educated decision. To help you out, here are a few questions you should be asking your fleet. Do you need a flexible solution that can accommodate different rule sets and exemptions? Do you need a portable solution or a hardwire solution? Do you only need a couple electronic logging devices, or do you need several? Will you be providing the device to your drivers? Decide if your fleet is looking for a simple compliance solution with no extra features, or if your fleet is looking for more in-depth data and insights. Once you've answered these questions, you'll have a good understanding of what your fleet needs, and you'll be able to know which ELDs are going to be right for your fleet. Which leads us to the next question that you'll want to be asking. What questions should I be considering when considering an ELD provider and their solutions? It can be tough to know what to ask, especially when every provider says that their ELD is the #1 solution on the market. We've even heard people say that their ELD is endorsed by the FMCSA, which isn't even possible. To help you, we have listed a few questions that you'll want to ask to ensure that the company is a good fit for your fleet. First, you'll want to know, are they a reputable company that you can trust? Do they have a proven track record of satisfied customers? Do they have experience with hours of service and regulatory compliance management? You'll want to know if they'll be able to ensure that their solution will be compliant with hours of service rules. In addition, you'll want to ask if they actually have a product that's available to purchase. Ask if you can see the product, or if you can do a demo or a trial to see if the solution is a good fit for your fleet. Note though, being on the self-certification list is not a guarantee that their product will be compliant with the mandate. So how do you get your drivers to accept electronic logging devices? To improve driver acceptance and adoption, we suggest making a plan in advance of how you're going to roll out electronic logging devices across your fleet. We also suggest providing your drivers with explanations of the mandate and its requirements. Be transparent with your drivers. Explain to them what an electronic logging device will record and why. Let them know how you're going to respect their privacy. It's probably their privacy that they're most concerned about. Also explain how an electronic logging device will make their job easier by reducing the amount of paperwork they have to do and how it could give them more driving time. Lastly, we also suggest involving your drivers in your decision. They're the ones who are going to be most affected by this mandate, and they're the ones who are going to have to use a device. It's important to listen to their feedback to ensure that you select a solution that they'll want to use. So what's the benefit of implementing a solution before the mandate deadline? There's actually a few benefits to transitioning early. The first is if you start using an AOBRD before December 18th, 2017, you can continue using it until December 16th, 2019. After that, you will need to transition to electronic logging devices. Going with an AOBRD will give your drivers more time to become comfortable with the new technologies and processes before they have to become ELD compliant. It will also give you more time to be flexible and to learn the system. Another benefit of transitioning early is that you can improve and protect your CSA scores. ELDs help your drivers follow the rules and help them create clean, inspection-ready logs. ELDs also reduce the number of violations through proactive notifications, reducing the risk of fines and out-of-service time. Another benefit to both you and your drivers is the reduction in the amount of paperwork. ELDs simplify your driver's day by automatically recording portions of their daily logs. Similarly, you and your back office staff will have less paperwork and less manual data entry, saving you man-hours. Ultimately, this will help reduce costs and protect your margins. Do you have more questions about ELDs? We can help. BigRoad is an industry leader providing hours of service compliance solutions. We were founded in 2011 with the goal of helping drivers track their record of duty statuses while helping them ensure they were running in compliance with complicated and constantly changing hours of service rules. From there, we quickly grew into a fleet-friendly business that offers solutions to support back-office staff, dispatchers, and safety managers to better manage their drivers and to better manage safety, all while improving business operations. Whether you're a passenger carrier or a large fleet comprised of owner-operators or company drivers, we help fleets of all types and sizes. In fact, over 30,000 fleets rely on BigRoad to remain compliant and to improve their operations. And now with the mandate less than a year away, we're helping fleets get on the path to compliance with a solution that's easy to use, fast to roll out, and affordable. Our solutions are the BigRoad mobile app, the BigRoad web app, and our ELD dash link. Our DashLink ELD is our solution to help fleets run in compliance with the ELD mandate. DashLink is already a favorite among drivers and fleets. It's the most affordable solution available, with no upfront hardware fees. It's a simple plug-and-play device that can be installed in minutes by your drivers. No expensive professional installation is required. Even better, it's a flexible solution that lets you decide when you want to run in full ELD compliance, meaning if you implement it before the mandate deadline, you'll have a full 2 years to run under the more flexible AOBRD rules, giving your drivers more time to adjust to this new way of logging. And it's really up to you when you want to flip the switch and run under ELD rules. This is a great option for fleets whose drivers are apprehensive about the mandate or are just less tech savvy in general. That concludes the presentation part of our webinar. If you have any questions about the information we've just covered or about BigRoad, please type them into the question box now. While we're waiting for questions to come in, I have a few things you can take advantage of. If you're interested about learning more about BigRoad solutions and would like a demo personalized to your fleet, send us an email at sales@bigroad.com and we'd be happy to set that up for you. If you haven't done so already, get started with a free 30-day no obligation trial of BigRoad. Getting into the system and playing around with the features and functionalities is the best way to decide if BigRoad is the right fit for you. To do this, visit www.bigroad.com/get-started. We also suggest that your drivers download the BigRoad mobile app. They'll have a chance to try out the app and see how it works. They can visit bigroad.com/driver and enter their phone number to receive a link to download the app to their device. Or they can visit the Google Play Store, or the iTunes Store and search for BigRoad. Lastly, once we've wrapped up questions, you'll be prompted to complete a survey. If you could take a second to fill this out, we'd appreciate it. It lets us know how we did and how we can make our webinars better in the future. Let's dive into questions. From Greg, when we have a BIT inspection at our terminal, how will the officer be able to pull 6 months of records that they will need to review? During a BIT inspection, motor carrier specialists will inspect a sample of regulated vehicles, maintenance records, and driver records to determine if the motor carrier is in compliance with the applicable motor carrier safety-related statutes and regulations. If you're using the BigRoad mobile app or DashLink ELD, it's very easy for you to pull up the required information for the officer. We archive your logs and supporting documents in a central location online where you can access it by logging into the BigRoad web app. When requested by an inspector, you'll go into the web app and pull up the necessary logs and documents. They can easily be exported into a PDF where they can be sent via email, shown on device, or printed in hard copy. Jennifer asks, is BigRoad going to be fully compliant with the ELD mandate by the mandatory compliance dates? She also asks, what kinds of options do you have for pickup trucks and big trucks? BigRoad's DashLink ELD will be fully compliant well before the mandate deadline. We are in the final stages of ensuring that our device is 100% compliant and is something that our customers will feel comfortable and confident using before we put them at risk by self-certifying. You can expect to see us on the list in the coming months. Right now, our device functions as a compliant, automatic onboard recording device. Many people are getting into DashLink now in order to take advantage of the 2-year extension period. If you get on DashLink now, you can continue using it as a AO BRD until December 2019. This gives you more time to be flexible while adjusting to automatic logging. You can then make the decision to switch to our ELD at any time. It's just a simple software download. There's no hardware swap, no additional costs. When you decide to go full ELD, it's completely up to you. In addition, our DashLink ELD is completely compatible with all heavy-duty trucks and motor coaches and all other vehicles such as pickup trucks and cube vans that were manufactured after 2008. We can do this by offering different cords and pin configurations. You just have to let us know what you need. Angela asks, our drivers are within the 100 air mile radius, but on occasion will be over the 11 hours driving time, 14-hour day, but the biggest violation is because of the on-duty waiting to get loaded and unloaded. What is the solution for this to more accurately document what is actually happening? Thank you, your app is awesome. Hi Angela, we're happy to hear that you like our BigRoad mobile app. In situations like this, accurately showing and proving your driver time can be hard. We recommend that you continue to use the BigRoad mobile app to track your time regardless, as this keeps all your information and logs in a central location. If you're over your time on a specific day, have your drivers make a note in the notes section located on the daily log for that day. They can also add a picture of the loading receipt to prove the time it took. However, that on-duty time will continue to work against you if you're over your hours. Unfortunately, the FMCSA and the Department of Transportation inspectors don't sympathize with time overages based on waiting for loads, regardless of the situation. They're very much by the book. It's best to encourage your drivers to best manage their time and to ensure that those overages don't happen so you won't be in violation for the day. William asks, can we pay for the hardware and avoid a monthly fee? Hi William, we do not sell our DashLink ELD hardware outright, and we do not charge you for the hardware unit itself. You get the device and simply pay for a monthly subscription fee. Unlike many vendors who will charge hundreds of dollars for the unit up front and then charge you a high monthly fee. We have one of, if not the lowest, monthly subscription fees for ELDs today. Ben asks, how does BigRoad tie into the ECM of the vehicle? I assume the driver will have an app on the phone. What is the cost for this app? Is it possible that the motor carrier can purchase the app for the drivers and only be good for the motor carrier and not interchangeable between motor carriers if they leave and take their phone with them? There's a lot of great questions you're asking, Ben. BigRoad's DashLink ELD is a plug-and-play device. This means that the DashLink hardware plugs into your vehicle's diagnostic port. It can be installed by your drivers within minutes with no permanent changes required. The driver then pairs the DashLink ELD to their Android or iOS phone or tablet. Their device would be running the BigRoad mobile app and would connect to DashLink via a Bluetooth connection. For a fleet, you pay $15 per BigRoad web app backend license and then $10 per DashLink device/driver. Depending on how many people need a backend license, you could keep costs down here. For a single asset, single driver, we charge $25 per month. DashLink is really a popular option for fleets that are concerned about driver retention. The BigRoad mobile app is a download to your driver's phone or device. They log into your fleet with the signing into the app. If they leave your fleet, you can shut down access to the application and remove them from your fleet. Joel asks, what's the best platform for drivers operating multiple trucks? What is the options for a company that has trucks that are not used weekly but must remain available to be used as a backup? How does this affect trucks dedicated to the 100 air mile routes? BigRoad's DashLink ELD is an excellent option for drivers using multiple trucks. We hear about this all the time because the fleets love the flexibility. Your drivers can keep their logs on the BigRoad mobile app and connect to the trucks when they need to use an ELD within the app. For trucks that don't need to be compliant, they can connect to the vehicle and only track their hours for simple hours of service tracking and not worry about the electronic logging device. For trucks being used as a backup, your drivers can unplug DashLink and install it on the truck they'll be using. This shouldn't affect your trucks that are dedicated to 100 air mile routes. David asks about personal conveyance allowance. Yes, the BigRoad mobile app and web app does have a personal conveyance option. The fleet administrator will have to turn this on for you to be able to use this. This allows drivers to make small moves, such as moving their truck around the yard, without kicking it onto on-duty driving. Drivers really like this feature. Darlene asks, what is the average cost per truck per month for service? If truck number 1 breaks down, can the driver simply unplug the device and move to truck number 2? The average cost of BigRoad's DashLink and user license is $25 per month. DashLink is a portable device that can be moved from truck to truck. If one of your trucks breaks down, you can simply unplug it and plug it into another truck within minutes. Linda asks, we have multiple vehicles a person can drive in one day. How do they do their logs? Oh, so multiple people can drive the same vehicle in the same day. Again, how do they do their logs? If they're not going at all, how do they track on duty not driving, especially if there are no CDL vehicles at the job site for them to log on as on duty not driving? If the answer is we need to do both paper logs and ELDs, that's a huge expense. And what if they drive a vehicle older than 2000, thus not compatible for ELDs, but then has to drive another vehicle later in the day that has an ELD? How is that recorded? The BigRoad ELD solution is very flexible. It allows drivers to move from truck to truck with ease. All they have to do is log into the BigRoad mobile app and choose the truck or ELD they'll be using. The BigRoad mobile app will also be able to keep track of your driver's hours and logs as they move from vehicle to vehicle. If your drivers are on duty but not driving, they'll be able to select that option within the app. Also, instead of doing both paper logs and ELDs, we suggest moving your drivers to e-logs, such as the BigRoad mobile app. It'll be able to keep track of your driver's hours and logs, cutting down on the amount of paperwork your office staff will have to do. If your driver is driving a vehicle made before 2000, they will be able to track their hours on the BigRoad mobile app. When they switch to a truck with an ELD, they'll then be able to connect to it within the app, which will carry over their logs from the previous vehicle. Dave asks, has the final rule been established as of yet for the electronic logs? The final rule was published on December 16, 2015. All drivers subject to the mandate must be compliant by December 18, 2017, unless they've been grandfathered under the AO BRD rule, which point they can still use those devices until December 17, 2019. Janice asks, when will your ELDs be registered with the FMCSA? Our DashLink will be registered quite shortly. Cornelius asks, for the ELDs, what are the costs per CMV per year and the upgrade availability? Our ELD is $15 per month per user and $10 per month per ELD for a single asset/single driver. That works out to roughly $300 a year. Dash links are easily upgraded in the field. There's no need to swap out the hardware. This can be done with a simple software download that takes just a few minutes. Mike asks, we have owner-operators running under our Department of Transportation number. One would assume we're responsible for their compliance with ELDs. Hi, Mike. If drivers are running under your DOT number, you're ultimately responsible for their compliance, as their non-compliance is going to have a huge impact on your operation, including impacting your safety score and insurance premiums. We recommend that you tell your drivers which ELD solution they should be using in order for your office staff to properly manage your drivers in compliance. DashLink is one of the most affordable options on the market, making it a great fit for fleets comprised of owner-operators. Some of the companies we are working with are passing the costs on to the drivers. Some of them are covering it themselves. It's really up to you on how you want to go. Carrie asks, what happens when a fleet needs to rent a vehicle? If you're using DashLink, you can simply plug it into that rented vehicle, and it's that easy. No worries. Desiree asks, we have a committee of 5 people who are exploring all the options on the electronic logging device compliance systems. Our trucks are run on airport grounds and by different drivers. How does this work with your system? Well, DashLink is a flexible electronic logging device that accommodates for different compliance rules. Just select the rules you need to follow and BigRoad will do the rest. Drivers can move in and out of vehicles without missing a mile by logging into the BigRoad mobile app and by connecting to the appropriate truck and vehicle. Matthew asks, for drivers that switch trucks, can they take their device with them, or how does that work? Drivers can take their DashLink from truck to truck. It's a portable device that simply plugs in to the diagnostic part via cord, and they can take it out and move it as they need to. Michael asks, can the app pair with another company's hardware? For example, we have leased trucks that have Centrix already installed on them. Can we pair the app with something like that, or would we need DashLink to connect to the app? DashLink connects to the BigRoad mobile app to track ELD compliance. You can use the BigRoad mobile app to track your hours of service. However, for ELD compliance, it would need to connect to the DashLink ELD. Well, that's all the time we have for questions. The remaining questions will be answered on the BigRoad blog. Thank you for attending today's webinar. Be sure to watch your email for a link to our blog where you can find a recording of today's webinar and the answers to today's questions. Have a great day. Thank you.